Hi, this is Pete Jopke with Dane County Land and Water Resources Department. I'm in the administrative division. I'm a water resources planner. Been with the county going on 25 years. A lot of my work focuses on lake and stream management. In particular on the lakes, I do a lot of the vegetation scouting, so the aquatic plant work that helps guide and direct a staff of about 20 people that we hire every summer to do vegetation harvesting on the Yahara chain of lakes and the river. As part of my job, I'm also the Aquatic Invasive Species Coordinator for Dane County, so this ties in very well. We have a couple of invasive plants that are very prevalent in the Yahara chain, both curly-leaf pondweed and Eurasian water milfoil. So we deal not only with trying to keep water moving through the system. That's our number one priority with our harvesting program. And our second priority is to provide recreational access for boaters, paddlers, anglers, and so on. So I'm out today to give you a little bit of an idea of what the program's all about. And we're on Lake Wabisa. All right, here's a couple examples of the invasive plants in the Yahara system. And this one here is Eurasian water milfoil. If you see it in the water, you can see it's a relatively soft-stemmed, very pliable, leafy material. The real secret to being able to tell this between our native northern water milfoils is the number of leaflets it has. These typically have more than 11 or 12 pairs of leaflets coming out of the leaf stem there. So that's one plant, very prevalent, makes up a large portion of our harvesting. And the other one here, this is curly-leaf pondweed. And this is an early growing plant. Oftentimes, the first plant in the system to kind of take off, it'll start right up at ice out. And it is typically maturing this time of year. And you'll see that the plant has a number of fruiting bodies on it called turions. When the plant senesces or dies back, those turions fall to the bottom, and then that becomes a seed source for next year's plant. So by cutting this plant early, like we're doing now, we're helping to remove problems potentially in the future, or at least keep it at bay. So one of the other things I'll do when I'm out on the water is I'll actually take a look at what the lake temperatures are and also what the clarity of the water is. And oftentimes this is a good indication of whether or not we have algae blooms going on. Of course, everyone has heard over the years about blue-green algae blooms and their potential for health problems. So this here is a simple tool I often use. It's called the Secchi disc, and it's just a matter of lowering the disc into the water where I can no longer see the differentiation between the black and the white. So the idea is then I've got demarcations on the cord here at a foot level, and I can kind of keep track over the summer of what water clarity is. So just to give you an idea, the first week of June on Lake Monona, I had 23.5 feet of water clarity, which is the most I can remember in my career working for Dane County. Today we're in a little shallow water here on Lake Wabisa. The boat's moving a little too fast for us to get an accurate reading, but the idea is to drop the disc into the water in the shaded area so that it's not skewed by the sun. You can see how it's moving back and forth. That's really not right. But we're probably at about 8 to 10 feet of clarity here today. You can see there's a little green tinge in the water. It looks like we have an algae bloom that's starting. Our water temperatures are in the mid-70s. Sunny day. We've had some calm conditions over the weekend. Those are kind of prime weather opportunities for algae to begin to start. So typically what we'll do, the question is, when do we start cutting, and at what point in the season will we begin to cut, or when will we return to make a cut? And oftentimes what I will do is I will be able to visually see the plants coming. So in essence what will happen is once the plants are within 1 to 2 feet from the surface of the water, I will go ahead and tell our staff, okay, it's time to go cut. There are times when the water may be a little murky and I may not be able to get a visual, and that's when I'll use the sonar unit. Right now we're seeing here we're in about 4 feet of water. Water temp is 75.1 here. These little spikes here on the graph indicate where the plants are right now. So most of the tops of the plants are they're topping out at about 2 feet. So this shoreline will be ready for harvesting anytime now. If our staff are working their way south on the system and we stop here, this would be a good spot for them to go ahead and start their harvesting. So for each water body that Dane County harvests vegetation on, we have an approved harvesting priority map. So the map here that you're looking at is of Lake Waubesa. You'll notice the blue areas along the shoreline are the areas that staff are allowed to cut in. The yellow areas or the undeveloped shorelines, we typically do not cut those. And I say typically because there are times where maybe we have wind-blown material or something that goes in and we will pick that material up. But the idea is undeveloped shorelines, we like to have the plants remain in place to provide habitat to young of the year fishes and birds, reptiles, amphibians, so on and so forth. So those stay in a natural state. The blue on the map, again, where we typically cut 3 to 4 harvester widths at the end of the docks on the lakes, and about every 5th or 6th dock will run perpendicular, which provides access to riparian landowners as they're coming in. Some years with aquatic plants, you can never quite tell. We'll have very heavy growth. Other years, growth may be minimal. So all depends on every given year, and particularly the weather has a big amount to play with what we see. So those areas that are encircled in red and have the kind of the red hash marks or the yellow hash marks in them, those are machinery hazards. So those are known locations where we may have a rock pile or some other type of debris that creates a hazard to our machinery. So from a lake perspective, that is how we do that. And again, that's our second priority. Our number one priority is in the river system. We typically cut the thalweg or the center of the channel, which helps alleviate upstream water levels. It's kind of like releasing the flow, if you will. So we are in a situation now with climate change where we're getting more intense rainstorms. We have a lot more urban areas that are developed, so our stormwater runs directly into our lakes and rivers, and in order to alleviate the amount of water, we have to have that pass through the system relatively unimpeded. Once the vegetation is harvested, it's offloaded via elevator and onto one of our transport trucks. We have a number of different sites around the county that we use for disposal of the vegetation. So oftentimes that material will be composted. We have had local agricultural producers that have shown an interest in the material as well. They're more than welcome to come pick it up from those sites, or in some instances, if they're close enough to the area where we're offloading, we'll go ahead and deliver it. We've had interested citizens near the water bodies that we're harvesting ask if they could have a load to work into their garden or planter beds. So the material is not taken to the landfill. It's taken to either a county site or used by somebody else. And once it dewaters, it makes for a really good additive to whatever your soil is. So the vegetation itself is probably 90 to 95% water. So once it dries out, it's relatively light and easy to handle. Okay, so I guess I wanted to just end this segment by talking a little bit about the value of aquatic plants. And not only are they important to provide cover for young of the year fish, they provide a certain degree of food for a lot of our waterfowl. Our valsinaria, which becomes very prevalent, or our wild celery later in the season, has a really rich tuber to it that provides a lot of energy to waterfowl as they migrate through the area. It's also a good plant for young fish as well. The plants do uptake some of the nutrients that come into the water system, some of the stormwater and agricultural runoff. They also provide oxygen to the water as well. So, you know, I get a lot of calls that say we need to cut the weeds, or we need to do a better job. But really, there is a lot of value. A healthy lake is a lake that has aquatic vegetation in it. So we try to balance the needs of the recreationalists along with the need to move water through the system, and then also the needs of the flora and fauna that live in our water bodies. So one question that I typically get asked all the time is, what is our impact on fishes as we do a lot of, as the fish spawn in the early parts of the summer. Here it's the second week of June. The bluegills and the bass are probably just finishing up. We've worked very closely with DNR on this, and we looked at long-term data trends in the recruitment numbers of fish based on some of the electrofishing surveys DNR has done, and there is nowhere in that data set that we can find any impact from the harvesting. So you got to remember, we're cutting maybe a 40-foot width of vegetative material, and the fish have just a huge area to spawn in across any given water body. So not all fish will be spawning in that area, near shore area. So our activities are permitted. They've gone through public review. They've gone through DNR review. Our county board approves them. So we feel very confident that we're having little to no impact on the fishery or other wildlife on Dane County lakes.